What's new, crew? If you're new, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cassandra, and today I figured we could break down 10 of my most used pieces of preservation equipment. Heading into the spring, we're thinking about the garden, preservation season, all those things, and I know that it is a ton of people's goal this year to be more self-sufficient, to grow more things. And when you start researching things like I did just a couple years ago, you see all of the equipment everybody's using and you think, oh my gosh, this is so much. Do I really need all of this? And I'm gonna break down my top 10 most used pieces of equipment. Full transparency, of course, I still have other pieces of equipment that I want, that I dream that maybe one day I will be able to have, more expensive pieces of equipment. But starting out, the basics are completely fine. You don't need a bunch of fancy equipment. So I don't think I have anything. I think I have maybe one piece of really fancy equipment on here, and by fancy I mean maybe a little bit higher of a price tag item, but in my opinion is worth it, and it is one of our most used pieces of preservation equipment. So I figured I would just talk about that today as well. So we're gonna go ahead and hop into my top 10 most used items when heading into preservation season. If you're thinking about it, you want to be more self-sufficient, and you're thinking maybe what items should I really consider purchasing heading into the season, these are going to be my recommendations. We are not including just a basic starting canning kit. If you look them up on Amazon, prices vary, but if you get a basic water bath canner and a kit with like your funnel and all of those things, very basic. I'm not mentioning any of those items. We are going to assume that starting off you have your basic water bath canning set. I don't have a pressure canner, so we're not going to be talking about anything like that today. My first most used item, the second I knew I wanted to make this video, the thing I thought of first was my big 22-quart roaster pan. I bought this in January of 2021, I believe. I found it on sale at Walmart after Christmas clearance. Normally these things can be a little bit more expensive, like $80 or so. I got mine for $25 on a Christmas clearance sale. So these do go on clearance. You can find these. You can also shop these at Goodwill, at garage sales, things like that. But you guys have seen me use it time and time again for making spaghetti sauce, for making applesauce, anything that I'm cooking down in a really large portion. I really love to bring out my 22-quart roaster pot for. I'm a mom of 4. All my kids are home, especially we're talking about summer break or maybe even fall, heading into back to school, trying to get things back into motion. Being able to dump a ton of stuff, like a bunch of tomatoes in my roaster pot and letting it do all the work for me while I can still be outside in the garden or hanging out with the kids, or I can put everything in the roaster pot, let it cook down all day. We can go to the beach, we can go to the park, we can come home, I can blend it up and get it canned. It is one of the most used pieces of equipment that I have, and the one that saves me the most time, the most headache, and allows me to get a lot done with being very hands-off. So I would definitely recommend keeping your eye out for a really big roaster. Maybe your grandma has an extra one that she doesn't use anymore or something like that. Goodwill, garage sales, you can always find them secondhand. The second thing that I thought of was my immersion blender. You just heard me talk about my big roaster pot, and this is what I used to blend up all of my tomato sauce, all my applesauce, anything that needed blending. If I'm cooking anything down, even if it's not in my roaster pan or in a crock pot, maybe we have like a big batch of when we made sloppy joe mix on the stove, something like that, I'm always using my immersion blender. I do not like having to take that extra step to dump out whatever I'm cooking down into a blender or into a food processor and mixing it up in batches. This way I can just do it all at once, all in one pot. It saves me a step. It saves me lots of dishes as well. I don't have to wash a blender or my food processor. All I have to do is take this little top off, put this in the dishwasher with the rest of my canning equipment from that day, and I don't have to worry about it. This is the Hamilton Beach brand. It was not very expensive. My husband picked this up for me from Walmart on his way home when I was doing a big canning day. I was like, you know what, I'm done with the blender, please pick me up one of these. They're very inexpensive, and you will use this for everything. I also use this now to make homemade mayo and a ton of different things, so you will find other ways to use this in like your day-to-day life as well. This is by far one of the things that I use most often, I reach for the most, and saves me so much time and so much headache. My husband brought me a Ninja food processor for Christmas, but around November, October, I think I was processing a bunch of tomatoes out of the freezer, and my husband went, you know what, you're gonna want that food processor, because I was working with this old second-hand one. It was very small and it didn't work very well. I had a love-hate relationship with it, so he upgraded me and got me the Ninja one, and let me tell you guys, it is worth the investment. I use that thing so often now with doing preservation projects, making cookie doughs, things like that, It is amazing. I love it so much. We use it for smoothies and I cannot wait to have that on hand heading into garden season. I am so excited to be able to use it to not only slice things like pickles or onions or carrots, use it for when I'm making coleslaw, all of the things. I'm so excited to be able to put all of my salsa ingredients in there and just hit a couple buttons, let it zip up, and then I can get it in a canner right away. It's gonna save me so much time chopping and all the things. I'm so excited to have it. So I wanna mention that right away. That is a little bit more of an expensive item, but you can maybe look for these secondhand. I don't know if you're really gonna find one in a Goodwill or anything like that, but you could shop sales, wait for a good deal. You could wait until Christmas or something like that, but just to keep an eye out for it. And that's really the thing, knowing what you want and just keeping an eye out, because eventually you will find a deal. My next most used piece of equipment is this apple peeler. Now, if you have no need to process apples or pears or anything like that, you're probably not gonna care too much about this, but we can and preserve a lot of apples and a lot of pears. We have 2 of these. These are fantastic. We got both of them off of either like a thrift store or something like that, an antique shop that had them for really cheap. So we have not paid full price for either of these. But like I said, if you aren't preserving apples or pears, you're probably not gonna need one, but they are really great. And we just end up keeping this one up in the kitchen because my kids like peeled apples now just as a regular snack. So we just keep it up here. The next thing I want to talk about is probably some sort of really big roaster pan for your oven that's oven safe. Whether that's like a big turkey pan or something like that, that's personally what I use. A big old antique looking, something grandma had, something that you could put a really big turkey in. That's what I use. I use that to roast anything, any sort of roasted recipe. I'll just throw everything in there, roast in the oven, but the bigger the better. I've learned that heading into garden season and you're growing more, and as my family's grown, we're a large family, we have 6 people in our family, you need to do large batches in my case, so the larger the better has been my experience. But if you're a small family, or maybe you're just starting off, you're not really looking to grow a ton of your own food, but you want to be able to preserve any extra that comes out of the garden, maybe something smaller is more what you're looking for. But a big roaster pan, something that you can put in the oven to roast all of your things in, is definitely going to be something that the next one might surprise you, but it's just Ziploc bags, both sandwich size and then gallon sized. If you're new around here, how I like to process my vegetables for the freezer is I will take meal-sized portions and put them in a little sandwich-sized regular Ziploc bag. And then once I get enough of these filled up, I will put them in a gallon-sized freezer bag and put them in the freezer. That way, there's 2 layers of protection. There's the freezer Ziploc bag and there's the little sandwich baggie, but it also makes it really convenient for me when I'm pulling out just for one meal. I do this for peppers, onions, all sorts of different things that were just kind of like additives when it comes from the garden. Other things like this is a big bag of mixed vegetables. This is mixed greens, so we have broccoli, Brussels sprouts, things like that. I will just blanch them, put them in a big Ziploc freezer bag like this, and they go in the freezer. It's pretty simple, straightforward. You do not need a food saver. I don't use the food saver for my vegetables. A lot of people are surprised by that, but food saver bags are way more expensive than Ziploc bags, and we are eating through our vegetables within a year. So they're not staying in the freezer super long term, and I've never had issues with these. You can look at these vegetables here. These have been in my freezer, this bag specifically, I think since September, so it's been a good while. They're still in great shape. There's not a whole lot of frost going on. They look great. That being said, we do have a food saver. That is on my list. We use our food saver only for meats, so we only use those for when we're processing, either after we come back from like a salmon fishing trip, a trout fishing trip, things like that. If they are a little bit more valuable of a meat, maybe they are going to be in there longer than a year, depending on how the fishing trip went, how much fish we can get over other fishing trips. Some things might be sitting in the freezer for over a year, and then in that case, we will use our food saver. That's another thing we got after a Christmas sale, or maybe it was a Black Friday sale. But either way, anytime we are purchasing big pieces of equipment like that, we wait for a sale. We wait until after Christmas, we wait for Black Friday, we wait for Cyber Monday or whatever it is, and we will wait for a deal to get some sort of a discount on those big ticket items. The next thing is our dehydrator. This is another thing, common theme. I waited until after hunting season when they put all the dehydrators and all of the jerky packets and things on sale, and I went and just got a Walmart dehydrator. It works great. I've never had an issue with it. I dehydrate a ton of different things. This is lavender. I've got kale here. It's not that big. I don't need it to be that big. I don't dehydrate a ton very often. We tend to go through more canned goods or frozen goods. So just this little bit works well. We use it for jerky and sausage and things like that. But we do use it, so I had to mention it. The next one seems so little and so basic, but it is a really good paring knife. I got this from a local Amish shop. They sell these there. They are absolutely amazing. My father-in-law swears by this knife. I swear by this knife. It's just perfect. It's little, it gets in all of the crevices you need. It's great for de-seeding peppers and tomatoes and all of the things. Getting a good paring knife is imperative. I have 3 of these. That's how good they are. That's how much I stand by them. They are amazing. A good paring knife. Paired with that is some sort of really big pot. This isn't the pot I use, but just for reference is what I have here. So this is what I grabbed. Some sort of really big pot. This is a tiny pot for what I do canning wise, but you've seen it in some of my videos. I have a really big, gorgeous pot my mother-in-law got me from TJ Maxx.
No.
And I would highly recommend that when you're cooking down anything on the stove, you're gonna need a big pot. If you're making a big batch of salsa, a big batch of Sloppy Joe sauce, whatever it is, you need a big pot. So I would highly recommend a really good paring knife and some sort of massive pot. Just like that, those are all the 10 things I would highly recommend to someone new. If my best friend came to me and said, hey, I'm looking to do this, what pieces of equipment would you think that I should really start off with? This is what I would tell them. Remember, you don't have to get it all at once. Slow and steady. That's why I wanted to do this video now. In January, you have a couple months before preservation season is really gonna kick in. Really June, July, August, really pushing into September. So you don't need to buy this all at once. You have months. You can go slowly, buy a couple of things, wait for those deals, know what you want, and go in and get it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to hang out with me and talk about all things homestead and canning and preservation. I hope that you guys have a good day, and I'll catch you guys in another one.